Hi there, and welcome to this quick presentation summarising the DCED Women's Economic Empowerment Knowledge page. My name is Ella Duffy and I am the Assistant Coordinator at the DCED. There are lots of resources out there on women's economic empowerment in the context of private sector development, but we know that it can be time-consuming to find what you're looking for online because there's just so much out there. Our knowledge page lists some of the most recent and relevant publications in this area, sorted into useful categories for you. In this video, I will go through each section of the knowledge page, circled here, and tell you about a few of the most recent or popular publications in each category. You can find the knowledge page on our website at www.enterprise-development.org/implementing-PSD/women's economic empowerment. So this is what the knowledge page looks like. First of all, let's go through the structure of the page. It's split into 5 main sections. It starts with a couple of short reads, which summarise knowledge from all DCED member agencies. It then goes on to give some links to longer DCED publications, mostly produced by the DCED Women's Economic Empowerment Working Group. You can find out more about the working group on our website under the heading named About the DCED. The next section details publications that demonstrate the need for women's economic empowerment and talks about various opportunities and obstacles in this area. Section 4, on integrating gender into PSD programs, is the largest section on the knowledge page. It includes both general how-to resources as well as more specific examples of particular PSD programs. Examples include integrating gender into business development services, rural livelihoods programs, looking at preventing or responding to gender-based violence, and then we also have a section on gender and impact investing. Lastly, the knowledge page has a selection of resources on measuring gender results in PSD. So now that you have an idea of the structure of the knowledge page, I'll give some examples of the types of publications you can find in each section. Firstly, in the short read section, we have the popular Women's Economic Empowerment Synthesis Note from 2019, produced by the DCED. It is 6 pages long and summarises the concept. The key takeaway points from the synthesis note are that most definitions include access and agency, and that PSD initiatives should address structural barriers to these in order to be effective. Also, actions by businesses like investing in care or having more gender diverse boards not only has a positive impact for business, but wider gains for the whole economy too. Women's economic empowerment initiatives are most effective when both men and women are engaged with, seeing as social gender norms play such a central role in determining the success of development programs. Continuing with the short read section, another relevant publication here is the DCED 5-pager from 2019, detailing the latest research and evidence in women's economic empowerment, with a focus on agriculture. This publication covers evidence on gender gaps in the agricultural sector globally, as women often benefit less from economic transformation than men. Gendered outcomes from PSD programs in agricultural sectors are very context-specific, but particular actions like land certification and asset transfers for women have been shown to increase women's agency in multiple contexts. While research on gender equality efforts and partner violence is inconclusive, PSD programs can also do more to reduce the risk of doing harm, and so program design here should always be informed by context-specific research. The second section of the knowledge page lists longer publications produced by the DCED, covering case studies and connections with other private sector development topics. For example, we have a series of guidance sheets on gender-responsive green growth from 2019, including a 1-page summary. In this series, one of the key takeaways is that general science and technology skills development for girls increases gender equality in green economy sectors. Another is that gender differences in barriers of access and use should be explicitly considered when designing green finance products. Another example of a DCED publication that you can find in the second section of the knowledge page is this 2019 scoping study called On the Move, Women's Economic Empowerment in Context of Migration and Forced Displacement. It documents the state of practice and identifies current successes and challenges in this area. The main conclusions of this study are that women's economic empowerment is a long-term process and that migration can have varying effects. For example, it can expose all genders to new social norms and opportunities, but can also bring risks like gender-based violence. It also finds that host communities should be actively engaged with for gender-focused programs in migrant communities to be most effective. The third section of the knowledge page covers the need for women's economic empowerment. Firstly, we provide a number of resources that explain the economic and business case. Popular publications in this section span from general key fact documents to more detailed resources. For example, the 2019 paper from Work and Opportunities for Women outlines key statistics to demonstrate that closing the gender gap globally will contribute to overall economic growth. Another 2019 resource from the Arab Women's Enterprise Fund outlines common frameworks for building the business case for gender equality. Having a solid business case helps firms to understand why the inclusion of women is so important economically. For example, the potential market for financial services represented by unbanked individual women could be worth $24 billion. Staying with section 3 of the knowledge page, we next list resources that show opportunities and obstacles in promoting women's economic empowerment, specific to sectors and countries. For example, in this section you will find a 2017 publication from the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, abbreviated BMZ, on women's pathways to the digital sector, which explores the gender-digital divide. They find that inclusive education systems are key to expanding digital skills for girls and women, and that there are too few opportunities currently that target girls with digital training outside of formal education. They also find, however, that more data are needed on the gender-digital divide. Another example from this section of the knowledge page is a link to the USAID Women's Economic Empowerment and Equality Dashboard. This was first produced in 2018 and provides a quick overview of the extent of women's inclusion in the economy for each country in the world. The fourth section of the knowledge page is the largest. It contains lots of links to resources on how to integrate gender into PSD programs. Firstly, we have publications that contain general how-to guidance for policymakers and practitioners. The issue with integrating gender into PSD programs is often that programs don't know where to start, so proven practical advice is needed. In 2017, the DCED published a 45-page synthesis document, on the left here, and a shorter accompanying guide for policymakers that seeks to address this. The DCED paper signposts methodologies from member agencies, split by level of ambition and previous experience. A key part of integrating gender into PSD programs is to define indicators of change early on in the process, and then to measure attributable change. This fourth section of the knowledge page also has some more specific guidance. For example, it provides a link to the UN Women Toolkits on women's economic empowerment. These include things like how to change norms in support of women's economic empowerment, shown in the middle here. We also provide resources that give global reviews of what works in practice. One example from this section is the Centre for Global Development's 2016 review called Revisiting What Works: Women, Economic Empowerment and Smart Design, which reviews the effectiveness of the actions in 136 policies and programs globally. It analyses specific actions and details their success for women of different income levels. For example, it finds that rural electrification is proven to increase the economic empowerment of poor women, but that standalone financial literacy training is not. Section 4 of the knowledge page also has a rich selection of more specific resources on integrating gender into 6 different categories of PSD approaches. These are business environment, market systems development, business development services, rural livelihood programs, gender-based violence and impact investing. I won't go into examples of specific publications here, as there are lots of different angles to choose from, but I recommend checking out this section. The last section of the knowledge page is on measuring gender results in private sector development. In this section, you will find both general guidance and reflections from impact evaluations. For example, the 2020 Work and Opportunities for Women Guidance Note covers current trends, debates, and challenges in measurement. It recommends that women's economic empowerment programmes should have a dynamic theory of change, informed by particular contexts, which is then revisited throughout the programme's implementation. It also stresses that data collection choices matter. For example, surveys have the potential to minimise the role of women if the questions themselves have a gendered bias. Another resource you'll find in this section of the knowledge page is a 2018 publication from the International Centre for Research on Women on understanding and measuring women's economic empowerment. It gives a conceptual framework and talks about different indicators for measurement at both individual and household levels. That rounds off our introduction to this knowledge page. We hope it's been useful. We welcome your questions and feedback and would love to hear from you if you have any suggestions of new resources that you think belong on this page. Please get in touch via email on admin@enterprise-development.org.